I hope y'all been paying attention with tokenized assets and cryptocurrency. This year, the Congress website has added information about tokenized assets. And on today's video, we're going to dive in deep into Ondo Finance and give you the most recent updates about what they have been doing with real world assets, or rather tokenized assets. And then we'll also dive deep into Algorand, talk about their transparency report and what they got going on as of today. Make sure you hit that like button and make sure you subscribe. And before we begin, make sure you watch this clip from Larry Fink.
The opportunity for tokenization is probably the most important component of how we are going to see the evolution of the financial plumbing of the world. And the reality is, if we could tokenize all our ETFs, all $5.3 trillion of our ETFs, and provide that in a digital wallet, you could seamlessly, without fees, going from a digital currency or a stable coin or whatever that may be in your digital wallet and buy bond or stocks. And I believe that is going to be the future.
Okay, BlackRock's Larry Finks is emphasizing one message. The future is tokenized. That's what he's talking about. He said it. Tokenization is probably the most important component in the evolution of the world's financial plumbing. I think that's a very, very interesting word choice. Now, let's get to congress.gov. This is what I talked about in the intro. They have in the Library of Congress a new entry, right? And it's called tokenized assets. The topic is in the economy and finance, science and technology, right? It was implemented on April 1st of 2025. So it says tokenization refers to a form of digitized finance in which real world assets, financial assets such as securities, bank deposits, and real estate are recorded and traded on a programmable platform such as a blockchain. That's crypto, y'all. That is cryptocurrency. And then some of the main things they talk about here, you know, on the official United States government website, Congress, it says, what is tokenization? So they breaks down what is tokenization in more detail. Then they go into why do you tokenize? They explain that there. And then they give you different various types of real world assets that are tokenized. And some of those types obviously are stable coins. We had the Genius Act pass this year that makes issuers of stable coins have to hold reserves and treasuries that can back it all one-to-one. Then you have commodities such as gold, right? Non-fungible tokens, those are NFTs. I can't believe they even listed that. And then they have tokenized securities, which you know what those are, stocks, ETFs, right? And tokenized deposits, that is various forms of tokenized deposits will resemble a stable coin. We're talking about treasury yields, those type of things. And then finally, real estate, the obvious, tokenized real estate. So they go in deeper into the potential challenges, which is adoption and scalability, interoperability, because there are so many different blockchains, and then blockchains versus offline. That's a whole nother conversation that is definitely going to be discussed. And then obviously policy implications, systemic risk, operational risk, regulatory and legal framework. A lot of progress has been made on this forefront for tokenized assets. Now let's dive into the leader of this whole movement right here. Well, one of the leaders will say. So Ondo Finance. Ondo Finance just dropped a new post. It says Standard Chartered projects $2 trillion in tokenized assets within 3 years. That's 2 trillion, 3 years. That's a whole lot of money that need to be tokenized rather by late 2028. In a recent report, the bank notes the biggest areas of growth are expected across money markets, U.S. equities, in private assets. That is a 56x growth for RWAs overall, a 86x growth for tokenized US treasuries, and a 1000x growth for tokenized stocks. Ondo is building the infrastructure to make that possible. So Ondo is saying, hey, I got you. I got you. And they backed by Larry Fink. All right. Standard Chartered sees $2 trillion in tokenized assets by 2028, matching stablecoins. The $300 billion stablecoin market capitalization pushed DeFi into a self-sustaining cycle of growth, according to the investment bank's head of research. So this is a deeper dive into what I just read you here. But again, some of the most important parts are here. DeFi, growing use in payments and investments may bolster non-stablecoin tokenized RWAs to a $2 trillion market. Of the $2 trillion, $750 billion is projected to flow into money market funds, another $750 billion into tokenized stocks, $250 billion into tokenized US funds, and another $250 billion into less liquid segments of private equity, including commodities, corporate debt, and tokenized real estate. Less liquid segments of private equity, that's interesting. We all really want some of the access to OpenAI. You know, they saying it's about to be valued at $1 trillion. This would be a good way to do it. Okay, here's a quote. Stablecoin liquidity and DeFi banking are important prerequisites for a rapid expansion of tokenized RWAs. Said Standard Chartered's global head of digital asset research. We expect exponential growth in RWAs in the coming years. Then they have more data here. Total RWA on chain, 35 billion. Total assets, 500,000. 230 issuers. Stablecoin market, just about 300 billion. And then we know Tether, USDC lead the way by far. And I think RLUSD just hit $1 billion, but it's tiny in comparison. Stable coins fueling DeFi's self-sustaining cycle. They go deeper into there. Here it is. In DeFi, liquidity begets new products, and new products beget new liquidity. We believe a self-sustaining cycle of DeFi growth has started. What they're talking about is when you're using platforms that are lending and borrowing. You got the largest is Aave, right? They just did 75 billion in total assets, I believe, on their platform. So people are borrowing against their Bitcoin, they're borrowing against their Ethereum, they're borrowing USDC, and they're making different trades and earning yields, and the cycle continues. Fees are extracted, the platform makes money, token holders make money, and that's self-sustaining. Definitely makes sense, right? So BX Digital and Ondo Finance partnered to launch regulated trading of tokenized products in Europe. So the Europeans want in on the action. Here's a deeper look at this. So with this partnership to launch regulated trading of Ondo tokenized stocks and ETFs in Europe. So the Europeans, again, want in, and essentially, what does this mean? So with 90 billion in annual trading volume, this is what they're talking about here. What this means. 100 plus tokenized stocks and ETFs will soon be available for regulated trading in Europe. That's the Teslas, that's the Apples, that's the Microsoft, that's the Nvidias, that's the etc. Ondo tokenized stocks are fully backed by their underlying stocks and ETFs, together with cash in transit. Real-time settlement and global transferability, accessible to investors in the European Economic Area. Ondo is among the first firms preparing tokenized product admission on BDX. And then they hit us over the head with this quote. Our partnership with Ondo underscores our ambition to provide issuers worldwide with a trusted and regulated environment for innovative digital asset products, while at the same time broadening investor access to digital assets as we shape the next era of capital markets. So plain and simple, y'all, that's what I got for you for Ondo Finance. Let me know if you really think they're going to dominate in the next few years of real world assets, tokenized assets. Let me know. The next one, got to talk about this. This is very important. Shout out to the Algorand Foundation for dropping this 4 times a year, but this is the Q3 transparency report. Here it is. The Algorand Foundation Q3 2025 transparency report is here. Transaction volume, TVL, real world asset TVL, all saw strong growth in Q3. Our staking share reached a new all-time low, while the number of open source developers on Algorand hit an all-time high. Let's click this. So we have transaction volume up 4.7%, quarter over quarter growth surpassing over 3 billion transactions in total. TVL up 18%, Q over Q, 167 million, reversing last quarter's contraction, so they did better in the last 2 quarters. Real world asset TVL reaching 106 million, reinforcing Algorand's growing role in the tokenized asset economy, up 16%. Community stake up 80%. The foundation stake down to 20, and then the open source developer activity at an all-time high. So that's the main highlights of what's going on here. Let's dive in a little deeper. I Get Algo made a great post about reviewing this in further detail, the 2 and 3, right? So let's start with the good news. He says decentralization is progressing. I just kind of read that to you. The community stake grown from 67 to 80% in the last few quarters. The foundation dropped 33 to 20. That's real measurable progress. Obviously, the developer activity hit an all-time high. Algo Kit workshops are popping. Enrollment into the courses are up. The real standout of the story, he says, is the real world asset TVL up 16%, over 100 million now, right? Midas launching T-bills, tokenized U.S. Treasury products in Europe, Treasury bills. That's great. And then obviously we love the humanitarian aid. His side pay served 350,000 Afghan refugees, 16 million in aid, 500,000 in Syrian aid payments. The aid trust portal launch addresses corruption and aid distribution. This is the blockchain solving real world problems for real people. Then they got updates on Para. So they do talk about something that's concerning, right? Q2 burned 105 million algo, Q3 154 million algo. That's a 46 increase quarter over quarter. At this rate, at the Q3 rate, there are roughly 23 months left of runway. Algorand is selling a lot of algo. That's essentially what he's saying. That's concerning. Then he's saying the core operations cost went up by like basically 200%. 2.7 million in Q2 to 8.8 million. So they're not what is now the largest expense category, bigger than marketing, research and development, ecosystem support combined. What changed? Basically, the operation costs are through the roof. Structure selling increased. That's them selling algo on schedule. Social media is telling a mixed story. All the socials basically went up. Telegram went down. Stable coin volume collapsed. You know, people have been talking about the slippage. If you trade in 10,000 algo to USDC, you might lose 5%. Transaction volume did grow, but the new account creation drops. So TVL grew, but a lot of it's on folks finance. So these are some of the things that he talked about. So obviously, it seems like there is some real execution happening here. Obviously, we talked about Google, the world chest, we talk about the humanitarian impact, all of that, but there are also some financial concerns. So if y'all want to, make sure y'all go read this full write-up. I think it's a very powerful write-up. I just gave y'all the gist and the overview. Y'all let me know what you think about this transparency. And as we slowly wrap this up, this is another good post. Who's leading in tokenized stocks? You got Ethereum, Algorand, and Solana host 94% of all tokenized stocks on chain. Tokenized stocks. Ethereum, 317 million, Algorand, 229 million, and Solana, 100 million, and Stellar Lumens with 22 million. That's tokenized stock value on chain as of October 2025. And then we have top 10 countries by Algorand node count. The Americans are kicking butt. I'm running a node. Germany's number 2, Pakistan, Ireland, France, UK, Canada, Singapore, Netherlands, and Finland. So that is some good distribution across the board. And remember, there was the Amazon Web Services outage that happened this month, maybe a week or so ago. Actually happened twice. On Algorand, only 8% of the 3,200 plus nodes run on Amazon Web Services. So what he's saying is Ethereum was affected. You know, a lot of blockchains were affected when this outage happened. Algorand wasn't. So that means the real world assets on chain are still going to be online if something crazy happens. That's what I got for y'all today. Appreciate y'all for tapping in. We talked about real world assets as a whole, from Congress to Ondo to Algorand. Let me know what you think about this video in the comments below.
Passive income, gold in my dental, thank God for my mental. Investor fundamentals, told my girl it was simple.